Everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Robert. I'll be your MC, and our good friend Edward is going to take us through his latest spoken word program. With that, I'll turn things over to you, Edward. It's all yours. Take it away. And thanks so much, Edward, for being here and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us once again.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for permitting culture and DC, history of culture of DC, to take some time this evening. My name is Ed Ingebretsen. Our program today is an hour of meditation and elegy dedicated to the people of Ukraine and all who have died in this conflict. The poetic word is one way we keep our loved ones near and present in memory. That is the grace of a word. That is the word that is their need. For speaking is a memory. It's a labor, a word, a work, a dedication. Together this afternoon, we do this. Those who are suffering this war might be beyond our ability to help them directly, but they're not above our need to witness and to remember. And those who perish in this, as the days go on and on, perhaps they know now what they did not know before, why they bore up, suffered, managed the chaotic days of life. For those who hold to religion, our honored dead understand now what our theologies presume, the infinitely suffering divinity that authors and grounds us. But beyond religious discourse, we the living, those who love the deceased, have a point of view they do not. They may have no need of our prayers. On the contrary, we have a need of witness for them, for their need and our mute grace. Tonight I will offer from a variety of traditions a handful of laments, elegies, outcries of love on the costs to human society, personal and collective, of this war. The first couple poems are written by women, vets. Women make up around 15% of Ukraine's army, meaning there are around 30,000 women currently facing Russia on the battlefield. The number does not include the guerrilla actions of women who are defending their country. Around the world, women vets currently make up approximately 10 to 15% of the overall armed forces in the 7 largest armies of the war. Our first poem is written by such a poet and addresses such a volunteer, called up not perhaps by law, but because they had nothing else to lose. Helen Parry Eden, a volunteer. He had no heart for war, its ways and its means, its train of machinations and machines, its murky provenance, its flagrant ends. His soul unpledged for his own dividends. He had not ventured for nation's spoils. So had he sighed for England and her toils of greed. It wasn't like his pulse would beat less blithe to see the Teuton shells on Rotherhithe and Mayfair. So each body scapes its niche, the wretched poor, the still more wretched wish. Why had he sought the struggle and its pain? Lest little girls with linked hands in the lane should look and say, "You did not shield us," as they went across his window when the war ended. The second poem this evening. Lieutenant Colonel Cheryl Lockhart, U.S. 20th Medical Group Chief Nurse, served in Desert Storm, honored with a Bronze Star. She writes on the experience. Day after day they ask me, my children, why do you go away? What makes you leave? I think that you should stay. My child who's standing at the door clutching daddy's hand so pleads again with choking voice, Mommy, please don't go. For me, I must answer them. I need for them to know it's not for fame or glory or riches that I go. I go for each of you, for all that have a son, for all who have a daughter or a special loved one. I go that when they are hurt or harm's bullet has settled deep, someone will be there for them to ease them as they sleep. I go to hold them as they die in some deserted place, to listen to their last troubled goodbye and still a troubled face. To honor, to serve. I go because you cannot go, and hold them when in fear, and soothe the troubled brow as they cry for home so dear. So when you see me pack my bags and leave for lands far away, it's not hardness of the heart or mother's conscience gone astray. It's for love of country, freedom, duty, and honor too. But most of all, I go to bring them back to you. Cesar Abraham Vallejo Mendoza was a Peruvian poet, writer, playwright, journalist. Although he published only 2 books of poetry during his lifetime, he is considered one of the great poetic innovators of the 20th century. Thomas Burton called him the greatest universal poet since Dante. The Black Heralds by Cesar Abraham Vallejo Mendoza. There are blows in life so powerful, I don't know. Blows like God's hatred, as if before them the undertow of everything suffered were to well up in the soul. I don't know. They're few, but they exist. They open dark furrows in the most ferocious face and the most powerful loins. Perhaps they're the wooden horses of barbaric Attilas, or black messengers that death sends to us. The profound lapses of the soul's Christs of some faith that destiny blasphemes. These dark herald, black thirsty blows are the cracklings of some bread that in the oven's door burns up on us. And man, poor man. He turns his eyes as when a slap on the shoulder calls us by name. He turns his crazed eyes. And everything he's lived wells up like a pool of guilt in his gaze. There are blows in life so powerful. I don't know. Boris Slutsky was born in Slavonsk in 1919. He's an Ukrainian poet. He grew up in Kharkov, a town, as the New York Times reminds us, has been and is now destroyed by the Russian onslaught. Slutsky in his works specifically approached Jewish themes, including material from the Jerusalem Jewish tradition, focusing on anti-Semitism, especially in Soviet society and the Holocaust. How They Killed My Grandmother, Boris Slutsky. It may refer to another time, perhaps, but it speaks now. How did they kill my grandmother? This is how they killed my grandmother. In the morning, a tank rolled up the city's bank, 150 Jews of the town weightless from a year's starvation, pale with the pangs of death all upon them. Came there carrying bundles, Polizei, young German soldiers, cheerfully herding the old men and old women and led them clanking with pots and pans, led them far out of town. To what end we all knew. But my diminutive grandmother, Lilliputian, my 70-year-old grandmother, swore at the Germans, cursed like a trooper, yelled at them where I was. She cried, "My grandson's at the front, just you dare lay hands on me." "These are our guns that you hear, Bocho." Grandmother wept and shouted and walked and then started again. And from every window rose a din. Ivanovs and Andreevnas leant down. Sidorovnas and Petronias wept. "Keep it up, Helena Matveyevna. You just show them. Give it to them straight," they clamored. What's there to be so scared about, this German enemy? And so they decided to kill my grandmother while they were still passing through the town. A bullet kicked up her hair. A gray lock floated down, and my grandmother fell to the ground. That's how they killed my grandmother. Jeanette Long, another Desert Storm veteran, also an Army medic. She's a patient advocate with the VA's Office of Patient Advocacy. She grew up in the Navajo Nation in New Mexico. To recognize our Native American veteran warriors. Come home, my brothers and sisters. Come home to the sacred mountains. Come home to the sweat lodges. Come home to the seminaries and the ceremonies. Come home to your moccasins. Let the guidance of the Creator bring you along the path of the rainbow, through the echoes of the sacred songs, where beauty will encircle your soul with comfort. The feathers that protected you, the tobacco offered, the prayers sought, the sage drifting in midair. Let these purify your senses, purify your soul, purify your body. Renew your spirit, for you are the child of the Creator. You follow the sacred path, the corn pollen path, where beauty and harmony will nourish your tattered soul. You are my honored guest. You hold my pride. You have done well to protect our rights, to protect our homeland we hold so dear. The legacy of our ancestors who fought for our rights, who fought for our land, is innate in your soul. You pave the path for the noble spirit of your patriotic ancestors, those who have gone before us, who gave unselfishly. You will never be forgotten. Our MIAs, our code talkers, Ira Hayes, our chiefs of distant past, our women warriors, Lori Pestua, our fallen hero of a new beginning, and our Vietnam warriors. We praised you long before the country stigmatized your efforts in Vietnam. Your duty and sacrifice will never be forgotten. We honor you at powwows. We honor you at the drum's beats, to the prayers spoken in the ghost dance. You will always be my honored guest. Return to beauty, my native veteran warriors. Return to the path of the Creator. Return to harmony. In beauty, it is so. Welcome home. In 1944, Boris Pasternak depicted one of the most heart-wrenching events of the Second World War, the siege of Leningrad, which claimed the lives of 1 million people, children, men, women, animals. Enduring an ordeal of 872 days, which lasted from September 1941 till January of 1944, Leningrad, or present-day St. Petersburg, the residents had to survive with no water, heating, electricity, or food. Surrounded by advancing German forces, they refused to surrender, stayed in their homes, mostly died of starvation during the blockade. This is winter. Do you remember dryness in the throat when clanking with a naked power of evil towards with shout they were going, and autumn was a step of test of being? But rightness was a fence of such a shield that no armor could reach well. The destiny of Leningrad was yield. It was the wall, its eyes, of all the defenders. The moment has come, a fair goal. The ring of siege was opened at last. The whole world is crowding around and looks in his face with a strong delight. How powerful he is, immortal lot. The chain of legends now has its link. All that is possible in skies and earth was carried out and withstood by him. Boris Pasternak. The War Requiem by Benjamin Britten, a large-scale settling of the Requiem composed mostly in 1961, completed in 1962, was performed for the consecration of the new Coventry Cathedral, which was built after the original 14th century structure was destroyed in a World War II bombing raid. The traditional Latin texts are interspersed in telling juxtaposition with extra liturgical poems by Wilfred Owens written during World War I. Owens, who was born in 1893, was serving as the commander of a rifle company when he was killed in action on the 4th of November in 1918 during the crossing of the canal in France, just 1 week before the armistice. I will only be reading a very short section of the War Requiem this evening. I'll read both Britten's lyrics and follow that with one of Owen's poems that Britten pays homage to. Requiem aeternam. Chorus. Requiem aeternam dona eis Domine, et lux perpetua luceat eas. Lord, grant them eternal rest. Let the perpetual light shine upon them. Boys. Te decit humnis Deus in Sion, et tibi videtur votum in Jerusalem, ex audii orationem meam ad te omnis caro veniat. Thou shalt have praise in Zion of God, and homage shall be paid to thee in Jerusalem. Hear my prayer. All flesh shall come before thee. Chorus. Requiem aeternam dona eis Domine, et lux perpetua luceat eis. Lord, grant them eternal rest. Let the perpetual light shine upon them. Tenor. What passing bells for these who die as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns, only the stuttering rifle's rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. No mockeries for them from prayers or bells, nor any voice of mourning save the choirs. The shrill, demented choirs of wailing shells, and bugles calling from them from their sad shires. What candles may be held to speed them at all? Not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. The pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers the tenderness of silent minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of blinds. Chorus. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. Remember, gentle Jesus, that I am the reason for thy time on earth. Do not cast me out on that day. Seeking me, thou didst seek down and sink down wearily. Thou hast saved me by enduring the cross. Such travail must not be in vain. I groan like the sinner that I am. Guilt reddens my face. O God, spare the supplicant, thou who pardoned Mary and heeded the thief, hast given me hope as well. Give me a place among the sheep. Separate me from the goats, and let me stand at thy right hand when the damned are cast away and consigned to the searing flames. Call me to be with the blessed. Bowed down in supplication, I beg thee. My heart as though ground to ashes. Help me in my last hour. Tenor and baritone. So Abram rose and clave the wood and went and took the fire with him and a knife. And as they sojourned both of them together, Isaac the firstborn spake and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron. But where the lamb for this burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and straps, and builded parapets and trenched there, and stretched forth the knife to slay his son, when lo, an angel called to him from heaven, saying, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him. Behold, a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. Offer the ram of pride instead of him. But the old man would not so, but slew his son, Isaac, and half the seed of Europe, one by one. Tenor. It seems that out of battle I escaped down some profound, dull tunnel, long since scooped through granites which titanic wars had groined. Yet also there encumbered sleepers. they groaned, too fast in thought or deaf, or death to be bestirred. Then, as I probed them, one sprang up and stared with piteous recognition and fixed eyes, lifting distressful hands as if to bless. And no guns thrumped, or down the flues made bone. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. Baritone. None, said the other, save the undone years, the hopelessness. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world. For by my glee might many men have laughed, and of my weeping something had been left, which now must die. I mean, the truth untold. The pity of war, the pity war distilled. Now men will go content with what we spoiled. Or discontent, boil boldly and be spilled. They will be swift with swiftness of the tigress. None will break ranks, though nations trek from progress. Miss we here the march of this retreating world into vain citadels that are not walled. And then when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from the sweet wells. Even from wells we sunk too deep for war. Even from the sweetest wells that ever were. My friend, I am the enemy you killed. I knew you in this dark, for so you frowned yesterday, through me as you jabbed, pointed, and killed. I am the enemy you killed, my friend. Yesterday I parried, but my hands were loath and cold. Let us now together sleep. Into paradise may the angels lead thee. At thy coming may the martyrs receive thee. And bring thee into the holy city of Jerusalem. May the choir of angels receive thee, and with Lazarus once poor, may thou have eternal rest. Boys. Requiescam aeternam dona eis Domine. Et lux perpetua luceat eis. Requiem aeternam dona eis. Wilfred Owen was killed in battle a week before Armistice Day in 1918. Parable of the Old Man and the Young. So Abraham rose and clave the wood and went and took the fire with him and a knife. And as they sojourned, both of them together, Isaac the firstborn spake and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron. But where? Where is the lamb for this burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and straps and builded parapets and trenches there, and stretched forth the knife that slay his son, when lo, an angel called him out of heaven, and saying, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him. Behold, a ram caught up in a thicket by its horns. Offer the ram of pride instead of him. But the old man would not so, but slew his son Isaac, and half the seed of Europe, one by one. The Things They Carried is Tim O'Brien's third book about the Vietnam War. It was based upon his experiences as a soldier there in the 23rd Infantry Division. He generally refrains from political debate and discourse regarding Vietnam, but he was so dismayed that people in his hometown seemed to have so little understanding either of the war or its world. And it was a part response to what he considered ignorance that he wrote The Things They Carried. And in this short excerpt today, in the first part, there are echoes here of the reporting that's coming out of the pillaged areas of Ukraine. Their principles were in their feet. Their calculations were biological. They knew no sense of strategy or mission. They searched the village without knowing what to look for, not caring, kicking over jars of rice, frisking children and old men, blowing up tunnels, sometimes setting fires and sometimes not. Then forming up, moving on to the next village, then other villages, where it would always be the same. They carried their own lives. The pressures were enormous. In the heat of early afternoon, they would remove their helmets and flak jackets, walking bare, which was dangerous, but which helped ease the strain. They would often discard things along the route of march. Purely for comfort, they throw away rations. They would blow their claymores and grenades, no matter, because by nightfall, the resupply choppers would arrive with more of the same. And then a day or two later, still more. Fresh watermelons and crates of ammunition and sunglasses and woolen sweaters. The resources were stunning. Sparklers for the 4th of July, colored eggs for Easter. It was the great American war chest. The fruits of science, the smokestacks, the canneries, the arsenals at Hartford, the Minnesota forests, the machine shops, the vast field of corn and wheat of the empire. They carried like freight trains. They carried it all on their backs and shoulders, and all for the ambiguities of the land they invaded, Vietnam. All the mysteries and the unknowns. There was at least the single abiding certainty that they would never be at a loss for carrying things. After the chopper took Lavender away, Lieutenant Jimmy Cross led his men into the village of Ton Cay. They burned everything. They shot chickens and dogs. They trashed the village. They called in artillery and watched the wreckage, and then they marched for several hours through the hot afternoon, and then at dusk, while Kiowa explained how Lavender died, Lieutenant Cross found himself trembling. He tried not to cry. With his entrenching tool, which weighed 5 pounds, he began digging a hole in the earth. He felt shame. He hated himself. He had loved Martha more than his men, and as a consequence, one of his men, Lavender, was now dead. This was something he would have to carry like a stone in his heart for the rest of his war. All he could do was dig. He used his entrenching tool like an axe, slashing, feeling both love and hate, and then later, when it was full dark, he sat at the bottom of his foxhole and wept. One thing for sure, he said, the lieutenant's in some deep hurt. I mean that crying jag, the way he was carrying on, it wasn't fake or anything. It was real heavy-duty hurt. The man cares. Sure, Norman said. Say what you want, the man does care. We've all got problems. But no longer Lavender. No, I guess not, Balker said. Do me a favor, though, will you? Shut up. That's a smart Indian. There Will Come Soft Rains was written during the 1918 German spring offensive during the First World War. It's likely that Teasdale was also inspired by the 1918 flu epidemic pandemic. that brought the war to its halting end. Sour Teasdale, there will come soft rains. There will come soft rains and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire, and not one will know of the war. Not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she will wake at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone. U.S. musician and poet Gil Scott-Heron, often called the godfather of rap, died in 2011 in a New York hospital at 62. His music and poetry revealed his deep interest in justice and civil rights. He railed against the consumer society of the 70s and the 80s, as well as the development of nuclear technology. The same intentions with the late Martin Luther King. He was among the first artists to use his music to attack apartheid in South Africa and in the United States, long before the issues became the focus of a popular global campaign. In The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, first recorded in 1970, Scott-Heron issues a fierce critique of the role of race in mass media and advertising. The Revolution Will Not Be Televised by Gil Scott-Heron. You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, Spiro Agnew, to eat hog maws confiscated from our Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen, or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner, because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run, or trying to slide that stolen color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on reports from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young. Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lifes of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit. A jumpsuit that he's been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant. And women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow. because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights in the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of hairy-armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keyes, the keeper of slaves, nor sung by Glenn Campbell or Tom Jones or Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado or white lightning or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. It won't put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live. Three short Asian haiku war poems. Lee Duan, lodging at the Stone Creek Way Station, hearing a woman crying. Outside the door of this mountain station is a woman, crying bitterly into the night clouds of autumn. She told me her husband died in the wars. This morning, she met his general coming home. To a friend lost in the Tibetan War, Sanghi. Last year you were sent to garrison UC. Since the whole army was destroyed below the walls, and since then Tibet and China have been cut off and no news. Are you dead or alive? Wandering some distant land forever? No one went to bring back the abandoned tents. A few horses returned with torn flags we couldn't make out. I would have had a ceremony for you, but what if you were alive? So all I can do is shed a few tears for you, lost at the end of the sky. At the Frontier by Hung Hun. We fought all night north of the Shaanxi River. All of our forces, half did not return. When morning came, so did mail from home. Families still sending dead men warm clothes for winter. Ezra Pound was responsible for the 1914 serialization of Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, the 1915 publication of Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and the serialization of Joyce's Ulysses. Hemingway wrote in 1932, for poets born in the 19th and 20th century, not to be influenced by Pound would be like passing through a great blizzard and not feeling the cold. Angered and distraught by the carnage of World War I, Pound blamed the war on financial capitalism, which he calls usury. From Hugh Selwyn Moberly, an excerpt. The age demanded an image of its accelerated grimace, something for the modern stage, not at any rate an Attic grace. No, not certainly the obscure reveries of the inward gaze. better mendacities than the classics in paraphrase. Okay. And these fought in any case, and some believing pro domo in any case. Some fought quick to arm, some for adventure, some from fear of weakness, some from fear of censure, some from love of slaughter and imagination and learning later. Learning later. Some in fear, learning love of slaughter, died some pro patria, not dolce, not decor. Walked eye deep in hell, believing in old men's lies, then unbelieving came home, home to a lie, home to many deceits, home to old lies and new infamy, usury, age old and age thick still, and liars in public places. Daring as never before, wastage as never before, young blood and high blood, fair cheeks, firm fine bodies. Fortitude as never before, frankness as never before, disillusions as never told in the old days, hysterias, trench confessions, laughter out of their dead bodies. There died a myriad, and of the best among them, for an old bitch gone in the teeth of botched civilization. Charm, smiling at the good mouth, quick eyes gone under earth's lid. For too gross of broken statues, for a few thousand battered books, there died a myriad. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, to the U.S. Congress. I have the honor to greet you on behalf of the Ukrainian people, brave and freedom-loving. These people who for 8 years have been resisting the Russian aggression, those who gave their best sons and daughters to stop this full-scale Russian invasion. Right now, the destiny of our country is being decided, the destiny of our people, whether Ukrainians will be free or whether they will be able to preserve their democracy. Make no mistake, Russia has attacked not just us, not just our land, and not just our cities. It went on a brutal offensive against our values, basic human values. It threw planks and tanks and planes against our freedom, against our right to live freely in our own country, choosing our own future, against our desires for happiness, against our national dreams, just like the same dreams you have, you Americans. Just like anyone else in the United States, I remember your National Memorial in Rushmore, the faces of your prominent presidents, those who laid the foundation of the United States as it is today. Democracy, independence, freedom, and care for everyone, for every person, for everyone who works diligently, who lives honestly, who respects the law. We in Ukraine want the same for our people, all that is normal part of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and Americans in your great history, you have pages that would allow you to understand us. Understand us now in the way that we need you right now. Remember Pearl Harbor, the terrible morning of December 7th, 1941, when your sky was black from the planes attacking you. Just remember September the 11th, a terrible day in 2001, when evil tried to turn your cities, independent territories, into battlefields. When innocent people were attacked from the air, just like no one else expected it. You could not stop it. Today, the Ukrainian people are defending not only Ukraine, We are fighting for the values of Europe and the world, sacrificing our lives in the name of the future. That's why today the American people are helping not just Ukraine, but Europe and the world that gave the planet the life to keep justice in history. Now I am almost 45 years old. Today my age stopped when the hearts of more than 100 children stopped beating. I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the deaths. And this is my main issue as the leader of my great people. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you for your support. Following the president, these are two poems from Words of War, New Poems for Ukraine. In April 2014, demonstrations by pro-Russian groups in the Donbas region of Ukraine escalated into war between their military and Russian-backed separatists. In August 2014, unmarked Russian military vehicles crossed the border into the Donetsk Republic. The first is Honya Kruk, untitled. Someone stands between you and death. But who knows how much more the heart can stand? Where you are, it's so important someone prays for you, even with their own words, even if they don't clasp their hands and kneel. Plucking the stems off strawberries from the garden, I recall how I scolded you when you were small for squashing the berries before they ripened. My heart whispers, death, he hasn't ripened yet. He's still green. Nothing in his life has been sweeter than unwashed strawberries. I beg you, oh God, don't place him at the front. Please don't rain rockets down on him, oh God. Oh God, I don't even know what a rocket looks like. My son, I can't picture this war even to myself. The second poem from that collection of Ukrainian poetry, Words for War, gives us an insight into how the other people fare, the non-human animals. Ostap Slovensky. Sometimes even an exploding bullet leaves only a tiny mark. Likewise, all I remember from this war is how one day, toward the end, a horse fell off a platform and there was no one to come back to him or for him, no one to pick him up from below the track. Kids gave him grass, and he lay there with broken legs and a dull eye, charcoal black. Like a sign left by the retreating night to make a path for the night that was to come. I want to conclude our meditation this evening. Dylan Thomas, another poet who died young. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rage at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end know that dark is right. Because their words have forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the song in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Again, a thank you to DC Culture and History and Robert for making this possible. Thank you all who are joined this evening. May the work that we do in our various different kinds of ways to make this world a safer place for those who shall follow us. Thank you and good afternoon. Be safe and healthy, everyone.
Edward, that was excellent. Thank you very much.
Robert, thank you. Good evening.
Edward, that was excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. I'm not so sure that you may have a question or two, but I'm ready to leave it as it is.
No, I don't think there were any questions, but for anyone joining us late, this program has been recorded. I'll send out the link for the YouTube link. I probably won't be able to do that till tomorrow, though. So if you joined us late, want to listen to or watch this again, or know anyone else might be interested, we'll send out the YouTube link tomorrow.
Robert, peace to you. We'll talk tomorrow.
Excellent. Thanks, Edward. Take care. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.